Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Russell 2000 and Equity Markets Commentary. Looking here at the monthly chart for the TF contract, we can see now that we've had a clean break up through those highs. We talked about the price breaking up, having made a higher low, looking to push up and make a higher high. We've now done that, and very convincing as well, not only that we're in that very strong monthly uptrend now, but also that we're back up above all highs made in 2008. So we're right back above there, and we're really looking for a test back of 2007 highs now. So things are looking very, very strong there. On the monthly chart, we're in a good, strong uptrend. Of course, we've now had 4 good, strong up months as well, which means that a pullback is becoming more likely. But we're talking here pullback and a pullback into a higher low, not going to consider any pullback a major change of trend, not unless it was a big one and actually made lower lows. That would be a very big pullback required for that to happen. Coming to the weekly chart, we've been identifying for many weeks on these videos this zone where these two blue lines here are between 740 and 750, and looking for that push to break up through. Last week we really thought they would get up and break through. We can now take those lines away, or we'll take this upper line away and say that that is now cleanly broken. We're going to leave that one line there just to see that this is support now if price can pull back to that level. Just looking at upper resistance levels, again these are just flat lines we've had drawn on the chart for quite some time. We're coming up towards some resistance now. I'm just looking at the lines of best fit whereby price has been supported and resisted the most times in the past. We're coming up to somewhere around about 780. So that's the next kind of test. And on this weekly chart, as with the monthly chart, we've now had a sustained, decent run up away from the moving averages, and we'd always look for a healthy trend to pull back into the moving averages. So we'll look at it across the charts and really make an assessment as to whether we think that's coming this week or not. Coming down to the daily chart, and again it's a long way from the averages, looking very, very bullish, due a little bit of a pullback, but just looking very, very strong. So, is this likely to pull back or not? First, let's just have a quick look at some of the cash index markets, and then we'll come back to the Russell, and we'll wrap things up there. So, come and have a look at the Dow. The Dow, I think, is probably the messiest of the charts right now. As far as a monthly chart goes, this is looking quite good, just pushing up through there now, so it's looking quite strong. But coming down to a daily chart, I don't like this pattern where we've got this rejection and these really small candles kind of stalling at this previous high. It doesn't look all that convincing there on the Dow. But then, completely contradicting that, coming to the weekly chart, this looks quite bullish. When we zoom out, put it into perspective, that we've just come up, we've pulled into the buy zone, we've got a green candle here in the buy zone, we're breaking up through the high of that green candle now. The weekly chart does look bullish, as does the monthly chart, whereas the daily chart doesn't look great. I will go always with higher time frames taking precedence, so for coming weeks and months, the Dow does still look strong there. Let's have a look at the S&P, because this is a more interesting one. And this is interesting in terms of that question that I posed on the Russell of will it break through resistance. I always like to look at which markets are leading and which ones are lagging. And we now really have on the S&P here the price really breaking up through resistance. So it's come up, it was the first to test this upper level here, it's broken up through now, it's pushed up through convincing. That is strong, it's a strong sign of continuation. Coming and just having a look at the monthly chart as well, having broken up through these previous highs, looking bullish there, looking strong, and it's a more significant level as well with all these previous touches on that exact same level coming all the way back into 04, 05, 06. It's a very precise level, this 1220 area, and we're now at 1240 having broken up through. So the S&P looking really strong there. Coming to the Nasdaq. And the Nasdaq, after having had a monthly candle which showed some signs of potential pullback last month with this candle here, has now completely invalidated that candle by pushing up through it and breaking up through the high of that candle rather than the low. So continuing back on up. You can see here on the monthly chart we've just got this one previous touch. We've just got this one touch. This is the 2007 highs we're coming up to. Let's have a closer look at that by coming down to the weekly chart. Weekly chart looking very bullish, pulled into the buy zone, small green candle, breaking up through the highs, everything looking strong. When we come out now and we look at this weekly, what I'd like to see is this multiple touches or one touch at this previous high? Because one touch is not a major support and resistance level, even if it is a major high. And this is pretty much just one touch. Coming all the way back through here, okay, there might be a little bit of a touch, but going all the way back to 1999 to even find it, which if we go back far enough, we almost always will find something. but here it's just one touch. It's not a major resistance level, so I'm not as worried about that. And the Nasdaq has really pushed through all levels of resistance to really lead the market higher, well up above all 2008 highs, and now coming back to test 2007 highs. Let's come back to the Russell, therefore, with that stuff in mind, with the Nasdaq and the S&P looking so strong, the Dow looking good on weekly and monthly charts. What is likely to happen here on the Russell? I'm really looking for a break back up and a real test back up around this 800 level. 800 being the next major area. There is some resistance at 780 as identified here on the weekly chart when we look at it in a little bit more detail. So now we've got another zone here. It's really 780 to 800 as identified across weekly and monthly charts. And we've got to see what happens when we get there. I'm expecting a test of that, and we're nearly there now. I'm expecting a test of that, and probably a bit of a retracement. Now this would be a sign of a really bullish market if we break straight up through that area, but it's the combination of we are overextended from the moving averages, having had an extended 4 or 5 week run now, and as we get up and test this area around 780 to 800, I'd expect to pull back into the buy zone, back into the zone around the 10 and 20 period moving average, back, without breaking below the 700 levels. So I'd expect it to test around 780 to 800, pull back, make a higher low somewhere above the 700 level before coming back up and giving that high another test. So I'm still very bullish in the long term, but very cautious this week in terms of we're overextended, we're due a pullback. I actually expect that this week might be up slightly again to get up and test that upper region before starting to pull back ever so slightly this week and maybe into next week. Of course, we'll assess that next week in more detail and look at exactly what has happened this week, but just to really recap, looking for that little push up before somewhat of a small retracement before coming up and really testing these levels, and I expect in the longer term breaking up through those levels.